grateful that I was chosen to be his mother. I think more than anything, I'm at peace with everything that happened.
A scream tore through the night. Not in a movie, not on a stage. It was the desperate cry of Pamela Warner, a mother who had just received the devastating news that her son, Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the beloved Theo Huxtable from The Cosby Show, was gone forever in a foreign land, Costa Rica. Hollywood froze. The world fell silent. The man who once brought laughter into millions of American homes now lives only in memory. Just minutes earlier, through tears, Pamela had choked out a shocking truth, a pain beyond words, a fateful moment that stole her son's life, and a confession the world had never heard before. This is not just a story of loss. This is the cry of a mother, a secret that will hold you captive. Let's return to the moment when an unknown black boy suddenly rose to become an icon of American culture. Malcolm was born on August 18, 1970, in Jersey City, New Jersey, into a home without a father. Pamela had to carry both roles, being the gentle mother and the strict father. Yet in the midst of hardship, she discovered in her young son a rare spark, a sharp mind, a gift for mimicry, and an endless fascination with the characters on screen. Refusing to let that talent go to waste, Pamela became his manager. From the very beginning, she enrolled Malcolm in art classes, encouraged him to perform at school plays, at church, anywhere there was an audience. Every time she watched him transform into a character, her eyes lit up. Deep in her heart, she knew this child was born for the spotlight. Even in the very name Malcolm-Jamal, Pamela poured her hopes. She chose Malcolm to honor Malcolm X, the symbol of black resistance, and Jamal to pay tribute to jazz legend Ahmad Jamal. In that name, she had already mapped out a path her son would carry both intellect and artistry, while embodying the strength of his community. Life in Jersey City during the 1970s was never easy for a single black mother. Pamela worked to provide for her son while battling social prejudice. But she taught Malcolm one simple, unshakable lesson. If you want respect, you have to work twice as hard. That lesson etched itself into the boy's heart, turning every hardship into motivation to prove himself. The turning point came when Malcolm was just 14. After a string of small roles and acting classes, Pamela took her son to audition for a brand new family sitcom, The Cosby Show. At first, the production team thought he was just there to fill a spot. But the moment Malcolm spoke, bringing wit and charm into the role of Theo Huxtable, the entire room froze in surprise. A star was born, and behind that star stood a mother who had always believed, always persevered. The glory of The Cosby Show, a legendary launchpad. In 1984, America witnessed a television earthquake called The Cosby Show. At first, few believed that a sitcom about the everyday life of a middle-class black family could succeed. But within just a few episodes, the show exploded into a cultural phenomenon. Every Thursday night, more than 30 million Americans gathered around their TV screens laughing and crying with the Huxtable family. Over its 8-season run, 1984-1992, The Cosby Show not only dominated the ratings, but also became NBC's savior, generating billions in advertising revenue. At one point, people joked, "Looking for your neighbors on Thursday night. Don't knock on their doors. Just turn on the TV. They're watching The Cosby Show." At the heart of that frenzy was a boy named Theo Huxtable, played by Malcolm-Jamal Warner. With a natural performance that was mischievous yet endearing, Malcolm turned Theo into America's son. From the moments of being scolded by his parents, to the awkward teenage mishaps, to the innocence of first love, Theo reminded audiences of themselves. At just 14, Malcolm captured the nation. He not only earned a coveted Emmy nomination, but also graced magazine covers as a teen idol chased by fans wherever he went. For Pamela, the single mother who once rushed her son from acting classes to stage auditions, that moment felt like a dream. My son made it. He was born to shine. But The Cosby Show was more than NBC's money machine. It was a cultural revolution. Before the Huxtables, black characters on TV were boxed into stereotypes, often shown as poor, stuck in servant roles, or painted as troublemakers. Rarely were they portrayed as intellectuals, professionals, or as a thriving, loving family. Then, the Huxtables arrived. A father who was a doctor, a mother who was a lawyer, children who were smart, lively, and full of character, The picture shattered long-standing prejudice. For the first time, American audiences, black and white alike, saw a black family living with stability, education, and love. They weren't just surviving in society, they were thriving in it. The true power of The Cosby Show wasn't just the laughter, it was the message beneath it. We are just like you. We deserve respect. We deserve to be seen as a model of modern America. And that message reshaped how an entire generation viewed black families on television. In that transformation, Theo played a special role. He embodied young black America, awkward, rebellious, yet intelligent and full of potential. Theo inspired millions of black teenagers to believe they too could step into the light, be heard, and be respected. Stepping out of the shadow. A diverse journey. When The Cosby Show ended in 1992, Malcolm-Jamal Warner faced a huge challenge. How could he escape the enormous shadow of Theo Huxtable? Many child stars had collapsed under the weight of a single career-defining role. But Malcolm was different. He was determined to prove that he was more than just the kid from The Cosby Show. He continued his career with the sitcom Malcolm and Eddie 1996-2000, where he starred alongside Eddie Griffin. The show quickly carved out its own space, delivering laughs and attracting millions of viewers. It was clear proof that Malcolm could stand on his own without relying on past glory. He then tested himself in a variety of television and film projects, from Jeremiah to Read Between the Lines, and later as Dr. A.J. Austin in the hit medical drama The Resident. With this bold, complex doctor, Malcolm showed he had matured as an actor, ready for roles that demanded depth and psychological nuance. Alongside acting, Malcolm revealed another passion: music and spoken word. He released 4 albums filled with lyrics and rhythms that reflected the struggles of the black community and his own personal reflections. Success followed him here too, with 2 Grammy nominations, and even a Grammy win, an achievement few could have imagined for little Theo. And yet, despite the spotlight, Malcolm remained grounded. He rarely flaunted his success, choosing a private life centered on family. For him, art was never a tool for showmanship, but a way to give back and deliver a message. But sometimes even those who bring light to millions of hearts cannot escape the darkness of fate. And tragedy struck in the most unexpected place: the shores of Costa Rica. The tragic moment in Costa Rica. That summer, Malcolm's small family decided to leave Hollywood behind and search for peace in Central America. His wife and daughter had already been in Costa Rica for 3 weeks, taking part in a cultural immersion program, an experiential learning journey where children connected with local traditions and nature. The final week was reserved for husbands and fathers to fly and reunite with their families and enjoy what was supposed to be a joyful vacation. On July 20th, sometime between 2:00 hours and 2:30 p.m., fate struck. Malcolm-Jamal Warner, 54 years old, stepped into the clear blue water alongside another man. The waves seemed harmless, reaching only to their waists, sometimes their chests. But beneath the calm surface, a deadly rip current was waiting. In an instant, the current pulled both men far from shore. The man with Warner was an experienced swimmer. He struggled, fought the water with every skill he had, and somehow managed to break free. Malcolm could not. Lacking the strength and technique to fight back, he was dragged under. Salt water filled his lungs, his arms thrashed desperately, and then exhausted, he disappeared beneath the waves. On the beach, tourists screamed. A few local surfers and even a doctor on vacation rushed into the water. Using surfboards, they fought through the current and eventually managed to pull Warner back to shore. The scene that followed haunted everyone who witnessed it. Warner's body lay motionless, his skin turning blue. He was no longer breathing. The Costa Rican Red Cross sprang into action. Chest compressions, rescue breaths, CPR performed in desperate cycles. The urgent counts, the frantic breaths, but nothing worked. After long minutes of failed attempts, Warner was pronounced dead at the scene. The official cause later confirmed by the OIJ: accidental drowning due to submersion. News spread instantly, and with it came a storm of rumors. Some outlets rushed to report that Warner's 8-year-old daughter had also been pulled into the waves. But the grim truth was different. She had never gone into the water that day. She was standing on the shore, and that meant she saw everything. The terrifying image of her father's final moments is a memory that will never fade. The heartbreak deepened when it became clear that Playa Grande de Cocles, the beach where it happened, had no professional lifeguards on duty that day. It was a beach long known for its dangerous rip currents with posted warnings, but staff shortages left it unguarded. No one was there to stop the tragedy before it began. And yet, the deepest wound was carried by one woman. No one could speak of that pain more than the mother who had brought Malcolm into this world. When Pamela finally spoke, America fell silent. Pamela's heartbreaking confession, a mother who lost her son. The reports out of Costa Rica were already shocking enough, but the true impact only came when Pamela Warner, the mother of Malcolm-Jamal Warner, sat down for an interview on Good Morning America on ABC News. It was the first time she had appeared publicly to recount the tragedy. The camera zoomed in on the face of a grieving mother. The host gently asked, "What's the very first thing that comes to your mind when you think of Malcolm?" Pamela pressed her lips tightly, fighting to stay composed. Then through sobs, she whispered, "Oh, that smile. That beautiful smile." Viewers across America went silent. The smile that once lit up the Huxtable family on television, the smile that had carried millions of Americans back to their childhood, now existed only in the painful memory of a mother. Pamela began to recount the fateful morning of July 20th, 2025. The phone rang. On the other end, a trembling voice delivered the unthinkable. Her body froze. And then from the depths of her soul, a scream burst out. The moment I heard that call, I screamed. It came from the very core of my soul. It was so loud that even neighbors at the end of the cul-de-sac came running. That pain. It's indescribable. It shot through my entire body. During the interview, the host pressed on, why was his family in Costa Rica? Pamela wiped her tears and explained Malcolm's wife and daughter had been there for 3 weeks, part of an immersion program since his daughter was homeschooled. The last week was when the fathers would fly in to reunite to enjoy the fun together. But instead of joy, it became the day of destiny. What was meant to be a gift turned into a cruel fate. Her voice trembled as she continued. My son and another man went into the water. They were only standing where it reached their chests, sometimes their waists. But there was a rip current. Malcolm wasn't a strong swimmer. He didn't know how to handle it. When the news broke, international media outlets rushed to grab headlines. Many even reported that Malcolm and his 8-year-old daughter had been swept away together. The rumor spread like wildfire, leaving America in panic. But even in her unimaginable grief, Pamela had the strength to set the record straight. No. My granddaughter was on the shore. She never went into the water. Malcolm went in with another man. That man was pulled out too, but because he was a strong swimmer, he saved himself. My son could not. Finally, she spoke of her spiritual belief as a way to endure the unbearable pain. Physically, yes, he drowned. But spiritually, I believe, it was his time. That was the way he had to go. A transition. And that belief is the only thing that keeps me standing. Audiences across America sat in front of their screens, unable to hold back tears. This wasn't just a grieving mother. It was a woman desperately trying to find light in the darkest moment of her life. Then Pamela's voice broke once more, though her eyes shone with an almost peaceful clarity. I am grateful to have been chosen to be his mother. There's nothing left undone. No what ifs, no regrets. Our journey as mother and son is complete. That confession broadcast on national television became one of the most heartbreaking and haunting moments in recent memory. It was no longer just news, no longer just a headline. It was the voice of a mother's soul, and it left America in stunned silence. But Pamela's pain was only the beginning, because behind a mother's cry was also the shattered heart of a wife, and the terrified eyes of a child who had just lost her father. The family left behind, a pain that endures. Amid the glitz of Hollywood, Malcolm-Jamal Warner chose a quiet family life. Few knew that in the early 2010s he had met Tanisha Warner, a talented and steady producer. Their love wasn't loud, wasn't marked by tabloid scandals. It grew from understanding and connection, and eventually they tied the knot in a small, intimate wedding. No million-dollar gown, No paparazzi crowding outside. Their ceremony was a declaration in itself. Love doesn't need to be proven to the world, only lived truly with each other. For Malcolm, Tanisha was the missing piece. After years of carrying the face of Theo Huxtable into American homes, after countless roles and musical pursuits, what he longed for most was peace. Tanisha became that safe harbor. In 2017, when their first daughter was born, Malcolm entered a new chapter of life. To the public, he was still an actor, a versatile artist. But to his family, he was simply Papa, a warm, gentle father. Pamela, Malcolm's mother, once said she adored her dad. To her, Malcolm was Papa. Through his daughter's eyes, he was a superhero, a protector, her one true guardian. To Tanisha, her husband was not just a television star, but a partner and a devoted father who always put family first. What stood out most was how Malcolm fiercely protected their privacy. In a world where every detail could be exploited, he kept his wife and daughter shielded from the media storm. Yet he still shared glimpses of love on social media, happy photos, simple but heartfelt captions. That was how he both protected and celebrated his family. Then, tragedy struck. On July 20th, 2025, when Malcolm was swept away in Costa Rica's unforgiving waters, the world lost an artist. But for Tanisha and their 8-year-old daughter, they lost everything. Shortly after her husband's death, Tanisha broke her silence on Instagram. Her words were brief but heavy with grief. "Thank you for holding us in love during this fragile time." No blame, no long statements. Just a few words, as if she no longer had the strength to say more. The heaviest blow fell on the small heart of their daughter. Pamela recalled the most haunting moment, one she believes will be etched into the child's heart forever. The instant Malcolm's daughter saw her father's lifeless body pulled from the waves. Children process things differently than adults. She saw them try to revive him. That image was too much to bear. She adored her dad. To her, Malcolm was Papa. And now both of them are drowning in grief. This is no longer just a story. It is a living scar, a tear-stained memory of an 8-year-old girl, and a sorrow a mother must carry for the rest of her life. At 8 years old, she is too young to grasp the full meaning of death, but old enough to know her father will never return. She carries a wound so deep that time may never heal it. Malcolm's passing left a void that nothing can fill. To the public, it was the loss of a star. But to Tanisha and her daughter, it was the collapse of their entire world. His artistic legacy will live on in film, in music. But his greatest legacy, the love he poured into his family, has now become a lingering sorrow, a story forever unfinished. For decades, Pamela Warner had been more than a mother. She was also a manager, a confidant, a silent partner in her son's journey. She saw him rise from a young black boy with dreams to a face known across America, from an eager newcomer on stage to a multifaceted man thriving in both acting and music. When Malcolm died, Pamela lost her only son, but she also lost the artist she had spent her life nurturing. And yet, instead of letting herself be swallowed by grief, Pamela chose a different path. From pain to purpose, carrying on the legacy. In her interview with Good Morning America, after recounting the heart-piercing scream she let out upon hearing the tragic news, Pamela spoke through tears. But with steady resolve, "I want to continue his journey. I want to create an arts foundation in Malcolm's name to help other children who have dreams like my son once had been given a chance." And she did just that, the Malcolm-Jamal Warner Arts Foundation. "This isn't just a way to keep my son's memory alive," she said, her voice breaking. "It's my way of continuing the journey he started. This foundation is more than charity." Pamela shaped it as an open door for children who love art but lack opportunity. She remembered how difficult Malcolm's early days had been, how there was no red carpet rolled out for him. He had to prove himself to struggle forward with only a steadfast mother standing behind him. "There are children born with the fire of art inside them," Pamela said, "but not every child has the access to turn that dream into a career. I want to change that. I want anyone to have the same chance Malcolm once had." The foundation bearing Malcolm's name focuses on scholarships in the arts programs in acting and music, and especially spoken word, the very form that had become his personal signature. But above all, this mission is not just about art. It is a human call Pamela's message to audiences everywhere love. When you can give, when you can live better, that's what he wanted. Her words echoed not only as Malcolm's legacy, but also as a wake-up call for everyone. For Malcolm's life, though, short left a lesson: fame fades, but love, kindness, and generosity are what endure. Pamela admitted she still has her dark moments. After the interview, she confessed that there are nights she collapses sobbing until she cannot breathe in an empty room. But instead of letting grief consume her, she chooses to transform it into fuel. Malcolm lived a full life, and now, my mission is to keep that fire burning. From a scream of despair in the night, Pamela has turned herself into a call to action for the community. From private pain, she has built a shared legacy so that future generations, young dreamers stepping onto the stage, will never falter for lack of belief or opportunity. That is the strength of a mother. A mother who lost her son, but refused to let the meaning of that love be lost. And through Pamela, Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the star, the artist, the father, the husband, will never fade away. He will live on in every child who steps onto a stage, in every note of music, in every smile sparked by his legacy. After Malcolm-Jamal Warner's passing, many believed his wife and daughter would retreat into silence, shutting themselves off in darkness. But in truth, they chose another path to transform private grief into public action, to turn loss into a living legacy. New beginnings and how they carry on just weeks after the funeral. Tanisha made a surprising announcement. 2 meaningful projects were born. The Warner Family Foundation, a beacon for young artists. This was the first initiative launched by Tanisha and her daughter. The foundation focuses on scholarships and training support for young people who are passionate about the arts but lack resources. Tanisha once shared that Malcolm often said, "There are so many talented kids left behind simply because no one gives them a chance." The Warner Family Foundation is the family's way of turning those words into reality. The foundation doesn't just cover tuition. It connects young artists with teachers, mentors, and professional environments, the very opportunities Malcolm struggled to find in the early days of his career. The second organization, River and Ember, carries a deeper meaning. The name symbolizes 2 states of life: the river that always flows, and the ember that glows, never extinguished. This organization focuses on children and families coping with loss. Through art, music, and spoken word, they are given a safe space to express pain, reconnect emotionally, and rediscover the strength to move forward. Tanisha explained, "My daughter lost her father at 8 years old. I know how deep that pain runs. And I don't want any child to feel they have to face grief alone. From darkness to light." Before the tragedy, Tanisha and her daughter lived privately. Malcolm shielded them from the spotlight, protecting the peace of their home. But with the launch of these 2 organizations, Tanisha stepped into the light for the first time, publicly confirming her identity and role. It wasn't just a statement, it was a turning point. For herself, it was how she confronted the pain of losing her husband. For society, it was her declaration: "We are still here, and we will continue Malcolm's journey, just as he would have wanted. The legacy still burns." Today, Tanisha and her daughter are no longer just the ones left behind. They are the keepers of Malcolm's flame. Pamela preserves his memory through stories and her presence in the media. Tanisha keeps the fire alive through action, through foundations and tangible projects. And their young daughter carries the purest love of all the love for her papa, a constant reminder that everything they do begins with love. This is how the Warner family continues on, not only through tears, but by writing the next chapters of an unfinished journey. Every scholarship awarded, every child who finds comfort in art is living proof that Malcolm-Jamal Warner still lives through them, through the next generation. Before his passing in the summer of 2025, Malcolm-Jamal Warner left behind not only unforgettable performances on screen, but also a fortune that surprised the public. He was never the kind of star who flaunted wealth like many of his peers. Throughout his career, Warner quietly and steadily built a financial foundation, just as simple and grounded as the way he lived. The wealth of a quiet star. According to Celebrity Net Worth, At the time of his death, Malcolm-Jamal Warner's net worth was estimated at around $6 million. Some sources placed it even higher, $7 million, and in some cases up to $14 million when factoring in real estate royalties and other entertainment investments. Among his assets, the most notable was a $1.3 million home in Decatur, Georgia, a 5-bedroom house he lovingly called his sanctuary. It wasn't a lavish mansion in the Hollywood Hills, nor a gold-plated estate like many of his superstar peers. It was a warm, intimate space where Warner could play music, write scripts, and most importantly, spend time with his wife and daughter away from the flash of paparazzi cameras. Interestingly, much of Malcolm's wealth didn't come from the blockbuster paychecks that people might assume. Instead, it came from the diversity of his career. Television and film actor. His role as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show made him a household name. Later followed by Malcolm and Eddie and the medical drama, The Resident, music and spoken word. He released 4 albums, earned 2 Grammy nominations, and took home 1 coveted Grammy Award. Director and producer Warner worked behind the camera on several television projects, creating additional income and proving he was more than just an on-screen performer. Malcolm never flaunted flashy cars or million-dollar watches to prove his status. Instead, he invested in his career and in his family's future. His quiet approach to wealth left the public surprised. Here was a star who wasn't loud or ostentatious, yet he still left behind a fortune worth millions. And so the question remains, who will inherit his legacy? His mother, Pamela, the woman who wept oceans of tears when she learned her only son had died in a foreign land. His wife, Tanisha, the steadfast partner who supported him from the shadows. Or their young daughter, the child who saw her papa collapse on a Costa Rican beach. This $7 million legacy is more than money. It is an unanswered question, an unfinished pain, and a glimmer of hope. That even though Papa is gone, his love and care will still be there to protect his family. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was not just a name tied to the childhood of millions of Americans. He was a multifaceted artist, a man of depth, actor-musician, spoken word poet, and above all, a devoted father and husband. His legacy lives not only in the timeless images of The Cosby Show or the soulful tracks of his Grammy-winning music, but also in the philosophy he embodied that every person can become a better version of themselves. Pamela, the mother, the manager, the lifelong companion on his journey, said through tears, "No more woulda, coulda, shoulda. Our journey is complete. It was a farewell, both heartbreaking and peaceful. No regrets, no unfinished business." And from the depths of tragedy came a message like Malcolm's final bell, tolling across the world: love when you can, give when you can, live better. Because though Malcolm was taken by the unforgiving sea, his legacy remains immortal. It will continue to live in the hearts of millions of viewers, in every child who dares to chase art, and in every new generation of young artists walking the path he once paved. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was taken by the unforgiving sea, but his legacy is eternal.